Hello dreamers and thinkers, and welcome back to another episode of Undone. This isn't just any episode, this is the first of 3 installments of the conversations that we had at our last event. But before we get into that, I have some exciting news. We finally joined the Buy Me a Coffee platform. So it is buymeacoffee.com/undone the podcast. And on that platform, you're able to leave us reviews, messages, comments, and also support all the work that we do, putting the conversations together, the events together. So I'm excited to have you guys partner with us and see what work we're able to do together. Now, before we get into the conversation, I have a little disclaimer to put out there. It's a little bit different to what some of you might have been expecting. We did say we're going to be having a debate, but life happened, and unfortunately some of our debaters were not able to join us on the night. But I am surrounded by some really amazing people who were able to join in last minute and help make this conversation what it was. So instead of a debate, we're calling it an open discussion, open dialogue. We split the night up into 3 themes, and I had 2 people kind of sit on a panel for each theme, and we just had an open discussion with the audience and myself and our panelists, and that is what you guys are about to watch. For this first installment, I was joined by Orlando and Jimmy, and we had a conversation around youth disengagement and primary prevention programs. I chose these 2 panelists for the work that they do in community with youth, as well as in the AOD and mental health space. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and feel free to send me a DM, leave a comment, subscribe, all the stuff.
So, gentlemen, if you would like to take no longer than 60 seconds to tell people your experience with working with the community, AOD, all of it, before we get into it.
All right. Hello. Hi, my name is Jimmy William, and I'm the founder of Pentacle Group. It's a mental health program that helps support a lot of people with mental health challenges, young kids on the spectrum, and also a lot of people who are going through suicide. So we do a lot of programs, and we have houses that we support people, which are emergency accommodation, and they were supported by the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. And there's a lot of challenges out here. I'm quite glad that Kuda set up this thing so that we can engage more and talk about it, because it's not spoken at all. So I'm very happy to be here.
Amazing, thank you, yes. We're an encouraging environment, everyone, so if we could please try the round of applause again. Beautiful, thank you. Orlando, over to you.
Hello, my name is Orlando Green. I wear a couple of titles. I'm a dual diagnosis nurse. I'm a counselor. I'm a coach. I'm an AOD practitioner. A couple of places I spend my time, it's at the Polar Practice, counseling, and I help young men, young African men. At the same time, I also work at right up there, NAS Recovery Center, where I'm one of the counselors, where we go into the community and help young people that are on the verge of attending youth justice, like the stages before there. So there's a very strong program that Nation is really working on to help individuals and young people prior to going to youth custody, is the opportunity for them not to go into youth custody, where we're there to support the young person and the family members, and it's a fantastic program. And a little bit about that, what I do there, and I have my own practice where I provide counseling individualized for young men of all sorts, in areas that are, I would say, areas of challenging around cultural identity, dealing with racism in Australia, workplace challenges that a lot of young Black men face in this day and time. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm from Philadelphia, USA, Pennsylvania.
Okay, amazing. Let's get started. For the first prompt/question, We are not starting light at all. It is, what patterns do you see in young people who develop substance use disorders? Are they disengaged first, or does AOD use lead to disengagement?
My experience of working in that space is, and not just young people, people in general who use substances. It's sometimes that it starts off as fun and games. I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna have a little play. I'm gonna go clubbing, and then sometimes it spirals out of control. Now, this isn't true for everyone, but this is for some. And that is one aspect of individuals when it starts off as funny party drugs, and then they continue and continue. Then your body gets a dependency on it, and then they find out they have to use it more and more and more. And that is one aspect of how individuals who do have substance use challenges. The other one is when they self-medicate. They have trauma, whether any type of trauma that individual feels that they are experiencing, and they don't have a support system who they feel they can speak with during those times, and they will self-medicate because they want to feel numb. They don't want to experience that trauma. They don't want to remember that trauma. So they may use substances, and they may tend to use more and more and more, and that's when it really becomes a challenge. And if they don't have support system, it's really challenging to break out of that because they don't have anyone they can turn to, and that's not the case. If you have to turn, you can go to the hospital. Every hospital in Australia has an ED center with an AOD specialist or can't remember the exact name. Sorry, but there's an AOD specialist at every hospital that will help a young person or an individual. There, they'll help you. They'll allow you to detox, and once you sober up, they will ask, "What would you like to do, and where would you like to go?" But once again, the individual must want to get help. You can't help individuals that don't want to help themselves. And unfortunately, that's the difficult aspect of dealing with substances, is having the individual know how to ask for help, know where the supports are to be successful or to overcome those challenges of substances. And in the end, my belief that the opposite of addiction is connectedness. So if you do have someone that's suffering from substance use, support them, be there for them, and just say, hey, I'm gonna love you regardless. You're gonna do what you do. I'm still gonna be here, and I'm gonna support you. What that support looks like is gonna be the difficult part, because we don't want that individual affecting your self-care, affecting your lifestyle, and what that's gonna look like. Just remember, you are number one. Love yourself first. You are the most important person. Put the oxygen mask over yourself first before you help someone else. Thank you.
Amazing. That was 3 minutes on the dot. Actual. That was amazing. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about this from two fronts. Number one, it starts from the home. The problem, from what I've noticed, I've been a clinician for the last 15 years. And I've seen this problem it starts from the home, from the parenting. A lot of the parents in this society, they're too busy and they don't have enough time with their kids. So you find the kids find people who they can come together, people who they can connect with. And there's a lot of people our parents have got trauma histories and trauma background. So when they come here, there's not enough information for a lot of these parents, even for the young people. And you find they connect with other kids who know that these kids, they need to connect with some form of family, and they make a family with these young boys. Unfortunately, there's a lot of drug dealing in the community, which a lot of people are not aware. So once these people who are selling drugs, they get to know these young people, they target them. It's a very broad area of discussion. And I mean, I've worked with Mama Selba here, and she goes to a lot of, where a lot of the young people are incarcerated. Most of these young boys, they're not only from dysfunctional families, they're also from families who are doing very well. And it's because the parents, they don't have time for them. They're working too hard.
Amazing, thank you. I just wanted to, before I throw it to the audience, take a moment to explain why that is a question that we are discussing in the context of this topic, because a lot of times AOD use, disengagement in community, disengagement in school is interconnected with young people becoming connected and engaged with like criminal activities in the justice system. And so for context, when we are discussing, I guess when we're looking at solutions, it's important to see, does a young person become disengaged first, or is it the AOD use that comes first? What is the cycle there? In hopes that we as a community are able to kind of target that and help reduce those numbers. I see Mama Selva's ready to go. If we could please give her the microphone. Okay, Mama, off you go.
Substance misuse starts first. So the young people, some of them are experimenting, some have got issues at home, like what Brother Jimmy said, discrimination in school. So they want to find somewhere they can belong. So they engage with people. Unfortunately, when they are engaging, they find other people who also have problems, yeah? And when they have problems, they start taking the drugs. They go home to a strict mother like myself, African strict, what do we call it? Strict African family values. I didn't drink in Africa. What are you doing here? So disengagement from a child starts there. Then they can't go to school. Then they can't do this. Police comes in, then they are in custody. When they are in custody, you don't even want that child who is going to prison anyway. So, all what I say, disengagement comes last. They engage first. So that's why primary intervention is very important. Support that young person before they do that. And even when they do that, help them, love them. Don't judge them because of their behavior. Sometimes it's us, the parent. 2 minutes.
Amazing, that was amazing. That was less than 2 minutes actually, you did good. Orlando, if you'd like to go.
Yes, that is one aspect of alcohol and other drugs. I was managing a program in North Richmond called the MDAP program. That was the Multicultural Drug and Alcohol Partnership. And I spoke to a lot of parents, and we were thinking of solutions to help, and for they could have an understanding why their children are using substances. And a lot of the things that my team came up with was that one of the most important things is that, yes, it's the parents and it's the household, but it's the values, and a lot of young people want to know why. A lot of African families, no, that's it. They're Australian now, so you need to give them a little bit of Australian culture by explaining what no means and why are you saying no. But it starts as early as primary school, because that respect has to be there. And it's a respect that works both ways. And unfortunately, this generation of children are a lot different than the way I was raised. You know, I was raised, you were to be seen and not heard. These children now like to have a lot of talk back because they have a lot more power here in Australia, and the times have changed. So parents have to understand that just saying no to your child is not good enough. You have to really explain that these are the values of this household. And education is important because of ABCD. It's going to allow you to have a better life. You put the work in now, you can be easier as an adult. If you like nice cars or a nice home, it's going to allow you to achieve those things. Don't go to school just to go to school because I say so. Like, really give them context behind as a parent, as you explain this to your child as they grow up from little person. Because you want that respect and understanding as they get older. And a lot of single mothers are raising men. And that's not easy to raise a young man, especially when he's feeling himself and the hormones start coming in. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
So really instill that respect to the family, to the culture. So when they do get older, that respect is the foundation. And therefore, once that foundation is set, it's going to allow that parent or that mother to just really explain to that child that, hey, I'm being a little tough on you because you're a black male in a white society and you have to work harder. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. And put the work in to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So if you do see your child using substances, have a conversation. Don't go crazy on them. Don't yell and scream. Just be like, yo, what's going on? Why are you using substances? And really try to go in it with no judgment and not as much emotions, because that can push them further away. You know, it's just the new way we do things now. It's not like the old school way where, hey, go get the belt. We're gonna work it out. They have power now. They can easily just call the police on a parent, go to school. My mom hit me. Next thing you know, DHSS is involved. They in Resi Care, and the mother's like, why? I didn't do anything. I was disciplining. And that's one of the biggest challenges I have with the Australian government. The government can discipline your child. The police can discipline your child, but the parent can't discipline their child. So really be careful what discipline looks like moving forward, because sometimes it's conversation, it's time out, taking away your phone, you know, et cetera, et cetera. That physical is not the way these days, unfortunately. Well, fortunately. Thank you.
Amazing. Does anyone from the audience have anything they'd like to say? Oh my goodness. How are we going to pick? Lady in the blue dress. Okay, so the question was, what's the difference between support and enabling?
Well, part of the support starts with a conversation. So you need to learn to have conversation with this young generation, because as a parent, if you're too hard on your child, you need to learn to listen to your child. And a lot of parents are not raised, or rather they're not taught how to look at the life stages of the child. So most parents are very, very strict on discipline. So you need to learn to have a conversation based on the stage of the child. What was the second question?
Yeah.
Conversation, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say boundaries. If you support, I'm going to help you. This is what it looks like, A, B, C, D. Now, those are the boundaries. If they break those boundaries or don't follow through, and you continue to help them after they've broken the boundaries, I will consider that now you're enabling them. Like if you say don't use your phone because you're not behaving well and they're getting on their phone, now you have to hold them accountable for that. But if you don't, you enable them. Like if you're like, okay, go on your phone for an hour. You know what I mean? You can't play basketball because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. They go play basketball, they come home, you don't take their basketball away, you don't take their sneakers away. Like, what you gonna do next? You can't beat them. So, well, I would just take their shoes and basketball. What they gonna play in? Like, what, you know, you got to be creative, because you got to, you know, do things differently as a parent other than the physical abuse. Like, you have to really think outside the box. You got to start taking things away from them. You know, I had this one parent, quick story. The child wasn't listening. First thing he did, he took the hinge off the door of his bedroom. I'm taking your door off. You know, you have no privacy. He continued to misbehave. Took the bed. You sleep on the floor. Like, I can't physically do anything. Like, I canceled your phone plan. Like, you don't want to listen. I got to start taking things away that's important to you. And that's what, if they're not obeying your boundaries, you have to think outside the box of things that are important to them that you can take away until they finally get it. But at the same time, it's going to be conversation. Like, I'm taking this away because you did this. You know, so yeah. Boundaries, I would say, is most important between enabling and support.
Amazing. If we could all please give a round of applause for that question. The next question is, do early intervention programs reinforce a deficit narrative, assuming young people are at risk rather than recognizing their resilience and potential?
Yeah, I think it's really important to know where the problem starts. If we learn to communicate with these young people, it doesn't matter with the age. It's a smart generation. They're learning faster. They have access to online communication, and they learn more than what we think they do, or they don't know. So it's really important to learn what the kids know. And then from there, start from there.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. Do early intervention programs reinforce a deficit narrative, assuming young people are at risk, rather than recognizing their resilience and potential?
I would say yes. I do believe that young people have access to a lot of resources that's out there now. But the thing is challenging, especially as a black male, is asking for help. The number of black men I speak to, their biggest challenge is learning to ask for help. Because as a black male, you're taught, I can do this. I can do it. I can do anything. I can do it all. So it's a real challenging fact to go ask for help when it's needed. And there's a lot of interventions out here. You know, there's Oscare, there's NAS, like there's services there for young people. But whether they have the courage to go ask for help and ask for the intervention, that's the biggest challenge. You know, parents, loved ones, oh, I helped my son. Like I hear it all. It's like, if anyone that's struggling with AOD and substance abuse, no one can help them. They can only help themselves when they're ready to be helped. Yeah. And that's where that question comes in. Are you enabling them? Because as a parent, you love your child. You don't want to see them hit rock bottom. But sometimes individuals have to hit rock bottom. And I always tell my clients, the great thing about rock bottom, it makes a fantastic foundation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. As a follow-up from that, do you guys think we have enough AOD services and interventions for the youth that they actually want to access?
I don't think it's supported well enough. The support needs to be increased. The parents need to get more information to know how to address the problem. Yeah, that's just what I've seen out there.
I definitely know there's not enough support. Because one of the biggest challenges here in Australia that everyone has is housing. And a lot of individuals, it's their environment that they're in. And there's housing, but the housing isn't great. Like it's drug infested, it's criminology there. There's a lot of things that aren't good for a lot of young people. So that's my biggest challenge with the support. Like I believe there's support when people go get it and ask for it. But once they ask for it, and it's like, I can't go back to this environment because it's not safe for me.
Yeah.
Where else can I go? And like Resi Care and things like that, those places are available, but at the same time, some of those young people in there is not a safe space because there's young people in those areas taking advantage of other people. And that's the biggest challenge, is that giving that young person the knowledge to be able to say no and mean no, know their values, know their motivation, know their why. Like, they have to know why we're here on this planet, why we exist. What's your motivation? And once young people learn that and get a nice little steady group or environment with connectedness, they can really go further. So, But these programs above me here are doing fantastic work for young people.
Yes,
and believe it or not, they don't even know how many lives they might have saved in these programs that you have them. Because the one thing about AOD, it's hard to have KPIs and really see if it's working. Yeah. Because you can help someone, then they're going to disappear. Because you won't see them again unless they need help. Because that's the only time they're going to come see you. Yeah. They may come by every now and then when they're doing good, or if you're walking down the street, they may see you and give you a little head nod. But yeah.
I'm going to throw it to the audience. Does anyone have a question? Oh, there was someone I cannot see who, but there was, yeah. That hand went up real quick.
Sorry, can you? Yeah, great. I think with early intervention, part of the problem, sorry, I might just stand up so you can see me. Part of the problem is from a policy point of view that the programs may not necessarily be tailored to people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. I've been in the Victorian Public Service for a long time, and some of the conversations I have with senior leaders is you cannot have 10 people in a room writing policies about a population that that's not represented amongst the 10 people in the room. So I think that's part of, we can have as much early intervention, as possible, as can be funded, but if it's not tailored to the cohort of people in the community, like our community, then sometimes it's not very helpful. We have people who want to do good, we have, our clinicians, who are doing amazing work, but if the framework for it, the funding for it, it's not tailored to the cohort, then it's not going to work.
I agree with you with that. Well said. I will give you a bit of pushback on that and say the one thing about the government, they love empirical data. They like data that has proof and has documentation to back that proof. And unfortunately, the African community, they haven't done the research. They have done it for the indigenous here in Australia. And therefore, you'll notice that the indigenous have a lot of programs from being incarcerated to when they're exiting the custody. There's a lot of programs for the indigenous. That might be because it's their country and they feel entitled, but there's very few other cultures here in Australia where the government provides that type of resources. They kind of put us all underneath one umbrella until, like the young people are doing now, the South Sudanese, they now have empirical data and doing a report through the children. I have the book over here, but they're acquiring research and they're getting the empirical data, and now the government is actually doing a bit more information in the space of the South Sudanese, only because there's quite a few young South Sudanese in youth justice. The Commission for Children and Young People, they're doing a report, and this is the first report that the this government agency have put out. And this is the South Sudanese saying, these are our problems in our community. These are what young people are saying. These are what our parents are saying. Yeah, you have proof. Get to it.
Anyone else in the audience? Oh, yes. Oh, okay. I'm going to do 3. Yes, so we'll start 1. Oh, where'd we go? Yes, gentleman in the black shirt.
Hi, thank you very much. And I guess my question is, for both of you, hello Orlando, is do you think with the intervention with drug and alcohol that we as a black community sometimes are a bit cavalier? So let's say with alcohol and weed, a lot of people feel that the harms aren't that bad. When we work in the industry, the harms are that bad, but people say, hey, it's a bit of weed, a bit of alcohol, we know someone who drinks a bit, and do you think that there's some sort of intervention we need to be doing as a community to each other and encourage that they're actually more dangerous? How do I raise awareness amongst the people? I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you for the question. Look, what I can say is that the moment you start taking drugs and alcohol, it becomes an addiction, a binge addiction, and slowly it gets in your system to the point where it's very hard to micromanage that. So it's not something that I'd encourage for a lot of people to do, especially the young people, because it affects your mind, it affects the way you think, you process, and you think slowly as well at the same time. And you get to the point where you can't do without it.
I'm a bit different. I'm sorry. Only because I'm in a sense of minimization. I'm not a fan of abstinence because everyone's an individual. And I may not be politically correct, but you're an adult. You can do what you want. You know what I mean? As a young person, I would say no. But once you become an adult, hey, that's life lessons. You're going to learn. So, hey, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I'm going to learn on my own. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I may not be politically correct, but I am a fan of minimization. And if you are using substances and you realize you have a problem, minimize. And if you don't know what that looks like, it looks like how much money are you spending, and is it affecting you or your job, your relationship, et cetera, et cetera.
I feel like you kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask anyway. I think to kind of piggyback off that question, people believe that the harm caused by those substances is subjective.
Well, alcohol is legal, cannabis is legal.
So when you say harm minimization, how do I know when to implement harm minimization if I don't think there's any harm?
Well, when it's affecting your family, your relationship, your job, your self-care, the ability to do the things you want to do. If you don't have insight into that, then you might have an addiction.
Thank you.
But there's a lot of people out there that are recreational users of alcohol and cannabis and ice and cocaine. That's just the world we live in. And that's being fact. Like I said, if you're under 18, 21, say no to drugs and alcohol. All right? Young man, looking at you. You know, but once you become an adult and you paying taxes and you got a job and, hey, that's your life. You can do what you want to do. Just don't hurt anyone. That's what I say. As long as you don't hurt anyone and you're just worried about self, I'm okay with it.
All right. We're going to take it to the lady in the front here.
Thank you. I'm going to try and contain this because I'm this question, that question. I think that I work with young people in the forensic space, but also at NAS Recovery Centre as well. And I think a big thing that we see is that, they struggle a lot with their parents and, the parents are also struggling as well. And I think that youth have a lot of limelight at the moment. They get a lot of support, which is great. But I think a big thing that you guys keep bringing up is parents are struggling. And I think when I think about early intervention, I guess when we get to young people when they're already at risk, it's a little bit too late and it's a bit tricky. But I think the question is, do you think that anything, and this is a big question, but I guess could have been done or still can be done around settlement-wise? I guess when people sort of come here, there's stuff that's done around material aid, how to learn the language, and then it's go for it, see how it works. And I think now we're seeing a lot of the residual sort of impacts of individuals, whether it's a woman, a man, a child, a community, and we're sort of suffering in that. We're still trying to stay together, but I think there's division happening in that as well, as in men and women's being divided, parent and child's being divided. Do you think there could be more early intervention stuff that could be done around settlement and just supporting the hierarchy of the parents before it trickles down to the child?
That's a very tricky question because in terms of settlement, I don't think the government will be willing to, I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, but pretty much from my experience in working with them, I don't think they'll be willing to go down that route. However, they'd be willing to support more parents for early intervention in terms of grants and, giving other sort of resources. Yeah.
Yes, I don't have as much knowledge on refugees, but as young people and parents, I highly believe that more can be done. I think just as much as intervention for young people in AOD, there should be intervention for parents who are having their challenges with integrating into Australia. I'm from the US, I had troubles integrating into Australia. So I really understand that some of the parents that I've spoken with when I was in the MDAT program, and it's sometimes it's hard to ask, it's challenging to ask for help. You really have to have courage to ask for help. And I believe some parents, I don't know if they're asking for help and not getting it. I can't answer that. But I don't know. If they're asking for help, I hope they're getting it. I just know a few times parents needed translators and they wasn't asking for translators. And not until another South Sudanese came in and said, why don't you speak in your language, allow me to translate and really express yourself the way you want to and not really struggle with trying to use English. And that's, so that comes back to courage. If the parents know their child is having difficulties, reach out and ask for help. And I'm talking about early, pre-primary school. That's when you have a child here in Australia, you take your child to a child care center, talk to a pediatrician, and you start working there. And step by step. So I just think I wish a lot of parents would have more courage to ask for help when they need it, because it's here. There's great programs like OSCare and NOS Recovery and other programs to really help parents.
Amazing. If we could please give them a round of applause.